Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. This morning, we're going to expose a week that has been really shaking the globe lately because we have terror in Colorado, war in Russia, legal war with Harvard with Donald Trump, and economic confusion at home when it comes to them making reports about consumer spending. So I'm going to give you a brief rundown of some of the top stories for your news updates we're going to cover this morning. We're going to cover a firebomb attack at a pro-Israel rally in Boulder, Colorado that leaves 8 injured. An Egyptian national shouting "Free Palestine." He's facing terrorism charges. And Ukraine launches a $7 billion drone strike that actually reached deep inside Russian territory, crippling over 40 military aircraft and exposing Putin's vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, peace talks resume in Istanbul, but the shadow of destruction hangs very, very heavy. Hamas rejects the latest U.S.-backed Gaza ceasefire proposal, demanding full Israeli withdrawal and unrestricted aid. Because that's already stating that Israel is still preventing some aid to come into the area of Gaza where they need it the most. And on the legal front, Trump's administration battles Harvard over international student visas, triggering nationwide debate over foreign influence in higher education autonomy. And of course, back here in the U.S., our economy, CVS announces, this is CVS, they're announcing that over 271 store closures, while American consumers confound expert with cautious, inconsistent spending habits. So those are some of your top stories. We're going to jump right into it this morning. In Boulder, Colorado, a peaceful pro-Israeli rally turned into a scene of chaos and a horror when Mohammed Sabri Solomon, a 45-year-old Egyptian national, launched a firebomb attack on attendees armed with homemade Molotov cocktails and makeshift flamethrowers. Solomon injured 8 individuals, including elderly participants, with 1 victim remaining in critical conditions. And a lot of the witnesses reported that Solomon shouting "Free Palestine" during the assault. The FBI has classified the incident as a target attack of terrorism. Absolutely. I'm pretty sure he was only at that rally because it was a pro-Israeli protest, so they can free the remaining hostages that Hamas supposedly has. And then this young man, or young terrorist, 45 years of age, he's throwing Molotov cocktails and blowing a makeshift flamethrower. Again, that's a very terroristic act. Of course, it's going to be labeled very anti-Semitic. And with a name like Solomon Mohammed, we already know how that's going to be labeled here in the United States of America. Now, I do want to point this out because I said this before, and I don't think people understand the history. But people from Palestine or Philistines, essentially, they are Semitic people as well. So I'll let you guys go ahead and research that. But that was very important to note because a lot of people say this is very anti-Semitic. But don't forget, these groups of people are both Semitic when we're talking about the history of things. Now, this attack supposedly was aimed at Jewish people who was throwing a pro-Israeli gathering of people. Again, trying to, thwart and influence the American government to, again, go in and convince Hamas, either by choice or by force, so the rest of the Jewish hostages can be released. So they're labeling this as a terrorist attack because it was against one group of people for a particular reason. So again, as this story unfolds, I'll keep you guys updated. Now, this is what a lot of people are not stating here, because Hamas has rejected a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal in Gaza, which is introducing new conditions deemed totally unacceptable by the U.S. envoy Steele Witkoff. Hamas demands include a permanent ceasefire, almost like a peace treaty, essentially, full Israeli troop withdrawal from Gaza, and unrestricted humanitarian aid. And the rejection complicates efforts to end the ongoing conflict and highlight the challenges in negotiating peace in the region. Now, this kind of goes against some of the sentiments and comments and remarks that they were stating before, because Israel was stating they're not going to leave Gaza until Hamas is eradicated. Either Hamas leave Gaza, or they will continue to attack as long as Hamas is in that region. Hamas, okay, they're not moving. Israel is not moving on their position. And all this is going on the while they're trying to conduct peace talks. Why is this important to America? Because we're footing the bill once again. We're giving massive amount and billions of dollars of humanitarian aid trying to reach inside of Gaza to the innocent citizens who have been affected by this war, as well as supplying Israel with military equipment and billions of dollars in cash. And we're going to cover some of the things that your American tax dollars actually fund around the world to all these other different countries. So we're going to cover that very briefly, but nonetheless, I think you guys need to be informed of that altogether. Now, Ukraine executed a very bold and unprecedented drone attack dubbed Operation Spiderweb, targeting multiple Russian air bases deep within Russia territory, utilizing 117 drones smuggled over 4,000 kilometers into Russia. Ukraine destroyed and damaged over 40 military aircraft, including strategic bombers and reconnaissance planes, inflicting an estimated $7 billion in damage. Now, this operation marks a very significant escalation in Ukraine's military capabilities and has exposed vulnerabilities in Russian defense system. One thing they're not really stating is that a lot of that drone technology and a lot of those drones came from America. And I think this is why Putin is not playing nice with President Trump, because we're still supplying Ukraine with equipment. And again, we can go back and forth. Whether that is moral and ethic, and that is what we should do as Americans, is to supply a country who's well outgunned and well outmanned by the Russian invaders. But again, and it's funny, I was on my cycling ride this weekend, and I was actually speaking to a man who's from Ukraine. Now, he came over here in America in 1993, him and his wife, I believe. But he was talking about how Crimea is an island, and that was originally Russia's land anyway. So when Russia took over Crimea, it was already Russia's land. I want you guys to think back, and I've done this. I did this report probably a couple of months ago, giving you guys the history of how the Soviet Union was actually formed. It was actually by Ukraine. Ukraine was one of the leading forces of forming the Soviet Union. And then they allow a Russian president, a Russian prime minister by the name of Gorbachev to be in charge of the Soviet Union. And of course, years later, the Soviet Union, the dominance they had in that region, actually disbanded. And also what I found out, that countries like, Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, all of these people are descendants from the Slavic people. Keep that in mind. So again, these are people who are now in different parts of different countries with these European colonial lines, but nonetheless, they're essentially descendants from the same people. So that's very important to note as well. Now, there are some Ukrainians, depending on their location to Russia, speak Russian. And then in different parts of Ukraine, they have a different dialect that still sounds like Russian, but it's a different dialect. It's not Russian at all. It's another language. Excuse me, because I do not recall the name of that language nonetheless. But again, these are essentially descendants of the Slavic people who are now in these very grotesque and ongoing wars that came about of the disbandment of the Soviet Union that was actually headed, and one of the lead countries was Ukraine. But America are the ones who are footing the bill once again. America are the ones who are footing the bill once again. I want you guys to hear this story, this part of the story very quickly.
More tracking the latest. Good morning, Marcus.
Well, George, good morning. This was an extraordinary operation. Ukraine successfully infiltrating deep inside Russian territory and launching this attack. And this escalation comes just as a new round of peace talks is set to get underway. This morning, astonishing footage capturing in real time Ukraine's surprise drone attack on some of Russia's key airfields. Smoke rising into the air, the coordinated drone strike hitting at least 4 locations, crippling nuclear-capable bombers stationed deep inside Russia.
It looks like around 30% or higher of their strategic bombers were destroyed. Some of these drones were as low as $500, taking out $1 million aircraft. It was a blow tactically, it was a blow strategically, and it was a blow politically.
This video shows the widespread damage, more than 40 aircraft in flames, following an operation that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said was one for the history books.
So I'm just trying to figure out here, how's this going to play in these peace negotiation talks that they are supposedly having. They're supposed to having these peace negotiation talks, okay? But the only thing we're seeing is full out war, right? And at the same time, they are sitting down trying to garner some sort of peace treaty. I don't know how they're doing that simultaneously. Yeah, you can do two things at once. But a massive attack like this, and again, they're still at war. I get it. We're having a conversation over here, but we're still fighting over there. So not that we can have a pause in a ceasefire so we can have negotiation. Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to let's ceasefire for 72 hours so we can negotiate a possible peace treaty or a possible longer ceasefire. I don't know what essentially happened to those talks because, again, following the very massive drone strike, delegations from Ukraine and Russia convened in Istanbul for a second round of peace talks. And Ukraine demands an immediate ceasefire, the return of abducted children, and reparations. Reparations. I'm not going to go there this morning. With Russian insistence on Ukrainian neutrality and the easing of sanctions, despite mutual accusations of obstructing the process, both sides appear committed to continuing negotiations. So they're both continuing negotiations while they're both continuing, attacks on each other. So again, I don't know how that's going to go over, but nonetheless, I'll keep you guys abreast of this ongoing battle. And I also wanted to point out the massive amount of money, not only to Ukraine, but we're going to pinpoint Ukraine here, but we're also going to pinpoint other countries that America has forked out billions of dollars to. Because let's look at the amount of money as of June 2nd that the United States has committed over $200 billion in emergency funding to support Ukraine and surrounding regions since Russia's full-scale invasion back in February of 2022. That's how long this war has been going over. This war has been going over for 3 years. For 3 years. And let's do a very comprehensive breakdown. The U.S. has provided around $200 billion in military assistance since the invasion began. And a lot of that support includes advanced weaponry, delivery of M1A1 Abrams tanks, M2A2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, and Stryker armored personnel carriers. When it comes to air defense systems, we're talking about the provisions of the Norwegian Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems and the Patriot missile systems to bolster Ukraine's air defense, ammunitions and missiles, supply of various calibers of ammunitions, including 120 millimeter mortar rounds and long-range missiles, training Ukrainian pilots on F-16 fighter jets and providing maintenance support for complex weapon systems. And when we're talking about the technological and cyber support on the digital battlefield, U.S. tech companies have played a very pivotal role in enhancing Ukraine's digital warfare capabilities by cloud services, because Microsoft and Amazon have assisted in migrating Ukrainian government data to the cloud, ensuring data resilience against cyber attacks. AI and data analytics. Paltar Technologies have provided advanced AI-driven data analytics platforms to aid in military decision-making and targeting. I've been telling you guys this for a very long time. Satellite communication. SpaceX Starlink has supplied satellite internet services, maintaining communication lines, even in contested areas. Financial and humanitarian aid. Beyond military support, the U.S. has extended significant financial and humanitarian assistance. Economic support, a $20 billion loan was provided to Ukraine, funded by interest generated from frozen Russian assets. So the amount of sanctions that we put on Russia and froze their accounts here in America, we then loaned that money to Ukraine. Humanitarian aid funds have been allocated for emergency food assistance, medical supplies, and support for Ukrainian refugees. Infrastructure and governance, assisting in rebuilding critical infrastructures and supporting governmental functions to maintain stability. So we're talking about money, supply, support, food, you name it. And the comprehensive support from the U.S. has been very instrumental in bolstering Ukraine's defense capabilities, enabling it to withstand and counter Russian aggression effectively. Now, granted, without American help, Ukraine would have already been conquered by Russia. Now, however, the geopolitical landscape remains dynamic with ongoing discussions about the extent and nature of future aid. The collaboration between the U.S. and Ukraine serves as a testament to the strategic partnership that America and Ukraine has in the amount of money that we have provided to Ukraine and the amount of support that we've given to Ukraine. Because as I told you guys before, I am going to give you guys somewhat of a very brief, comprehensive breakdown of the money that we have going to different countries that we are not publicly trading for resources, equipment, etc. Right? We just give this money to countries each and every year. Okay, each and every year we give this money to countries. So back in 23, again with the over $200 billion we've given to Ukraine, we've also given Ukraine roughly $17 billion. Again, that's include military, economic, and humanitarian assistance. We've given approximately $3.5 billion roughly back in 2023 to Israel, and that was mostly for military assistance to maintain regional security and a technological edge over Hamas. Ethiopia, we've given them roughly $2 billion for humanitarian aid, health programs, and development projects. Jordan, the country of Jordan, $2 billion in economic support and military assistance to a key Middle Eastern ally. Egypt, we've given roughly $2 billion in military aid and economic support to maintain regional stability. Afghanistan, $1.5 billion roughly of humanitarian assistance and support for governance structure. Because again, don't forget, when we pulled out of Afghanistan, we're now trying to somehow convince, influence the Afghanis to be a democracy and support them with American dollars. Somalia, we've given roughly $1.2 billion in humanitarian relief and counterterrorism efforts to essentially their government. South Sudan, $1.1 billion roughly of humanitarian aid and support for a peacekeeping operation. But again, there's no peace there. Yemen, however you want to pronounce it, $1 billion in humanitarian assistance and ongoing conflicts. Nigeria, $1 billion in health initiatives and counterterrorism support. I guess that's the war against Boko Haram, one of the large terrorist groups in that region. So again, we've given all these foreign powers billions of dollars of American taxpayers' money. And again, I don't have to look at other European nations. I don't have to look at other Asian nations. I'm just looking at the amount of money in tax dollars that you guys spend. When you look at your pay stub and you're looking at you're paying federal tax, state tax, local tax, you're paying Medicaid, Social Security, whatever. You're paying all these different taxes. And one of the biggest taxes that you pay is your federal tax. And I just want you guys to know that billions of your American dollars are going to other countries that do not serve the interests of America. And this is how America, we explain it. We're just trying to keep peace and stability around the world And in order to do that, we have to fork out billions of dollars to these other countries. Now, with that billions of dollars, if someone's giving you billions of dollars each and every year, do you believe that country has a say-so in your government? Do you believe that government has a say-so in your democracy? Absolutely. Because if they don't have a say-so, if they don't have any influence, then guess what? That money will stop. And here's a problem with President Trump. He's the one stopping a lot of that humanitarian aid that's going to a lot of these countries. And of course, his advisors say, President Trump, the reason why we give out these billions of dollars to these countries, because if not, these countries are then going to implode, and that's going to, basically ruffle a lot of feathers around the regions, and then there's going to be a lot of infighting between different countries and states and regions in those areas, and then we won't be able to do trade, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's always a political excuse why we're using American taxpayer dollars and giving billions of dollars to these other countries, and the reason why inflation is up, interest rates is up, and the reason why the American consumer is no longer spending like the way we used to spend. Is this a good thing? Maybe. Maybe this is showing the error of our ways. I'm just saying. Because again, the interest rate on homes, this is back to the national average, 5 and 6%. That whole, term during COVID where things were 2 and 3% and 4%, that was below historical percentage rates. That was definitely below historical percentage rates. So when we look at this, we're back, I guess, to the high normal of things. Anyway, so President Trump is still fighting with Harvard because his administration is attempting to revoke Harvard University's ability to enroll international students because they've already this has already been temporarily blocked by a federal judge. And the administration cites Harvard's alleged insufficient response to anti-Semitism and inappropriate coordination with foreign entities. Harvard argues that the government's actions threaten the very foundation of autonomy of American higher education and violate administrative procedures. Now, I can understand this particular, rhetoric that Harvard is speaking about because you're blocking international students from coming from Harvard as they recruit the best students from around the world. Okay, we're always recruiting the best students from around the world to keep America powerful, to keep America rich. But if they bring up the $100 billion that the American government was giving to Harvard each and every year, I know when a lot of American people, realized that the American government was giving Harvard University, one of, if not the most prestigious college in America, $100 billion each and every year. And if you look at the price tag of room and board and tuition to go to Harvard, and then you look at the $53 billion endowment that they just have sitting in the bank, and they're using your tax dollars to keep Harvard rich and prestigious, but yet you don't have the amount of money to go to a Harvard, to go to a Yale, to go to a Brown. You don't even have the money to go to a community school, a community college, but they're using your tax dollars. You're working 8, 10, 12, 14, 16-hour days just so you can pay taxes, just so the federal government can give $100 billion to Harvard. So yes, I'm glad that President Trump has stopped that $100 billion going to Harvard. Absolutely. Absolutely. Can't take off my hat more times than not. CVS Health has announced plans to close 271 retail stores across the United States in 2025. So this year. And this comes about as part of an enterprise-wide restructuring strategy. The closure aims to streamline operations and adapt to changing consumer needs, including shifts in population and buying patterns. The move raises concerns about pharmacy access in effective communities. So again, this is about their bottom line. They have too many locations and not enough business. They have too many locations and not enough business because I think CVS was using the Amazon strategy. And basically, the Amazon strategy is anytime Amazon, and this is kind of globally, but definitely in the United States of America, anytime Amazon as a company start to profit because of the business dealings that they're making, they build another fulfillment center. So they increase their market share and their debt to income ratio rises. Their debt rises and their income lowers. That's why everyone that's part of the board of directors at the point when Jeff Bezos was in charge of Amazon, they were employees. So they won't be personally affected. So the company is in debt, but the people that's part of the board of directors, the stakeholders, their investors, the regular employees that you see each and every day that's doing your packages and delivering and packing them up, they're all considered employees. They don't want to have someone outside of, the employee ecosystem, so to speak. That way they will be highly taxed. But as long as you keep a company in debt, you don't pay taxes. That's why a lot of these billion-dollar companies that owe billions of dollars in taxes, they can file zero taxes because they keep their companies in debt. So if we're not making any money, how can you tax us? And at the same time, it's a brilliant strategy. It really is a brilliant strategy. Because anytime they get close to making any sort of profit, they build another fulfillment center that costs millions of dollars. And they don't just build one or two, they build as many as they need. They buy land and they start to build fresh. I'm pretty sure there may be a couple Amazon locations that they're renting or leasing retail space, but no, majority of Amazon fulfillment centers are owned and operated, the land and the building, by Amazon. So they know exactly what they're doing. And I believe that CVS, I don't know for sure, but I believe CVS did the exact same thing, and it has not worked out for them because their business is predicated upon people coming in, especially with these pharmacies, okay? People coming in and fulfilling their prescriptions. Now, I want to know if a lot of these pharmacies are inside of CVS stores, or are these kind of those CVS pharmacy goes where you see these sort of little metal shells that they made? It's like two people inside of this very small location, and they can just fulfill your prescription. I wonder if they're talking about that because CVS is closing 271 stores. That's a lot of stores, including 3 locations in upstate New York. 271 stores. I may do some research here so I can tell you what stores will actually be closing so you guys will know what's in your area. Instead of me just reading 271, but it's going to pop up a list for you guys. But we'll look at that for the evening broadcast, okay? We'll look at that for the evening broadcast. That's a lot of stores to close, okay? And they're talking about restructuring. No, that's financial trouble. Those are 271 stores. Yeah, that's a whole hell of a lot of stores, ladies and gentlemen. Now, despite a robust economy like America with low unemployment and stable inflation, U.S. consumers, you and I, are exhibiting cautious spending behaviors. Good job, Americans. Because we have concerns over inflation and economic uncertainty because of all these high rates of inflation, but it has led to reduced discretionary spending and increased saving rates. And this paradox presents challenges for businesses and policymakers aiming to stimulate economic growth. So Americans are being more conscious about the money that we're spending. And also, coming from the gym this morning, I was listening to a news story of how Campbell Foods stock is up 1%. And they say it's been consistent ever since COVID because a lot of Americans have now returned back to cooking. Because at one point in time, we was an economy of people that ate out a lot. Don't get me wrong, there's still people eating out. I don't know how people, unless you're just filthy rich, eat out each and every day. And I know that if you're making a couple $100,000 a year and your time is more valuable doing business versus trying to figure out what you're going to eat that evening. You just have a private cook or a private chef to come in and cook, and do some meal prepping for you and cook all your meals. That may, that's probably worth your time. But for everyday families, do we have enough money for daycare? Do we have enough money to have cleaners come over your home? Do we have enough money for a cook or a chef to come over? So again, American families are returning back to the kitchen, which is a good thing, because now you know exactly what's in your food versus us eating out and getting fatter and spending loads amounts of cash we don't have. So again, this could be positive. So again, I applaud that. I applaud that we return back to the kitchen. Last but not least, I do have a video for you guys. I kind of want to know your reaction here when it comes to this, and then I'll give my small little take on this video clip. Here we go.
Seat in the car, please.
No, I'm not getting in that car.
You have to get in the car.
Why?
You're under arrest for driving under the influence. Okay?
I'm just not getting in the car.
You have to get in the car.
Come on, you got to get in the car.
Please have a seat in the car.
Come on, get in the car. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Go.
You don't have a choice. You're under arrest. Please have a seat in the car.
I'm sorry, but what in the test that we did just proves that
That could all be explained later, but you are under arrest, okay?
I'm not going to go under the arrest.
You have to.
You
have a seat in the car.
I'm not going in this car without knowing
you failed
what
the
I
test.
did when I didn't fail no exams.
Miss,
I'm sorry.
Get into the car.
Have a seat in the car now.
We don't want to have to put you in the car.
I didn't fail my exams. So
Okay,
I don't
have a seat in the car. Get in the
I'm
car.
not getting in this car without knowing what.
Miss, get in the car.
I'm
Have a seat in
sorry,
the car.
but it's scaring me because I don't know
Okay.
what I did.
Okay.
When I didn't do
But you're
anything.
being told you are under arrest, okay? Have a seat in the car.
Respectfully, sir, I am driving home to my family and I didn't do anything. So why are you accusing me?
We're not. You are under arrest. You have to get into the car.
Have a seat in the car.
I didn't fail no exam.
Okay.
So why are you
Have a
doing
seat in the
this?
car.
I have a lot of things going on tomorrow.
Okay, get in the car.
Oh my God, this is not fair because I'm literally trying to become one of your stupid people respectfully.
Okay,
but
well, have a seat in the car.
That's not fair.
Listen, if you want to have a
I
chance of
pulled up
listen,
because the guy literally trying to become one of your stupid people respectfully.
Okay,
but
well, have a seat in the car.
That's not fair.
Listen, if you want to have a
I
chance of
pulled up
listen,
because the guy in front
if you want to have a
of me-
chance of anything, listen to our instructions and have a seat in the car.
Stop! You
Have a seat in
really
the car.
are because you know what it is.
Have a seat in the car. We don't want to have to put you in the car.
You literally were your whole life, but you're not trying to help me.
Okay.
Getting in that car.
Now, and I wish that I could find the full clip of this, because I wonder how do they put her in the car, so to speak. But I wanted to bring this to you guys awareness, because I thought about this in a couple of different ways. Now, this clip is back from November of 2023, but nonetheless, the question that I asked on Twitter, and people in some degrees like to call me every now and again a race baiter. That's fine. But I always like to show the dichotomy and duplicity of the dynamics of race in America to a certain degree. Because the first question I have is, well, first and foremost, shout out goes out to the cops, because they seem to be very good cops and very patient cops. Then I must ask this question: what if she was black? I want you guys to really think about the video clips that you've seen with police officers and black women who wasn't raising their voice, who wasn't calling them obscene names, and that was trying to reason with them. How were they treated? How were they treated? Majority of the time. I can't state for every single time, but majority of the time of the clips that you've seen, how were these reasonable black women treated versus this white woman here? Now, this has have to do with race. This has have to do with relation. This has have to do with being familiar. What I mean by that, what I'm talking about is these are two white cops. When they look at this white woman here, are they sexualizing her, that they don't want to handle her too roughly because she is well endowed when it comes to her bust area, and she's very shapely, and she seems to be pleasing to the eye to them? Could that be it? Could they see that she could be a sister of theirs? Like, she's relatable. We can see, the complexion for the protection, so to speak. Is this white privilege? Do they see that this could possibly be a daughter of theirs? Is there some sort of relation there? It could be all those things wrapped up into one or none of them. But why didn't they put her in the car, especially when she started to do the tears or the whining, so to speak? I just wanted to, I don't know what I've been put over there. And then she said, I'm actually trying to be one of you stupid people. So she insulted the cops, and they still didn't handle her roughly. They still didn't tase her. They still didn't shoot her. They still didn't push her inside the vehicle, put her head down. They reasoned with her every second, and they told her multiple times, you're resisting arrest. You're resisting arrest. You're not following our commands. Did they say any of those things? Absolutely not. From this video clip, and again, I'll try to find the full video clip, they put no physical or violent harm on this young lady. Now, granted, to her well-being, that's a great thing. But again, I like to look at the contradictory and contrast of race relations, how certain police officers handle certain groups of people versus how they handle others. That's the only thing I wanted to show you guys. I'm glad she did not get harmed. I'm not saying they should have harmed her. I'm just showing you, what if she was a black woman? You guys have a great day. This is Blacklogic.